I'm Joanna Small, the Public Information Officer for the Commerce City Police Department. It's Monday, December 8th, and these are your weekend high or low lights, depending on how you look at them. It's essentially our video blotter where we give you a rundown of the most significant incidents your CCPD patrol officers responded to over the weekend. But we always like to start these off with a few fast facts. We answered 289 calls for service, and our traffic team made 51 traffic stops just on Saturday and Sunday. Now here are those highlights in chronological order. Overnight Thursday, officers responded to Chambers Way and Heartland Drive after someone called 911 to report they had followed a suspected drunk driver and taken the keys from the vehicle when it came to a stop. When officers arrived, they learned the suspect had fled on foot. Officers found open containers of alcohol inside the vehicle and are working to determine if the registered owner was the driver who fled that scene. Also overnight Thursday, officers were sent to a convenience store in the 6300 block of East 72nd Avenue after a woman called 911 to report a store employee had grabbed her inappropriately while she was attempting to enter the restroom. This case has been assigned to a detective for follow-up, and an arrest is pending the results of a touch DNA analysis. Overnight Friday, officers received what's called a flock alert for multiple shots fired in the area of East 72nd Avenue and Highway 2. When officers arrived, there were no suspects on scene, but they did discover and collect 3 9mm shell casings that were in the roadway. Also overnight Friday, an observant CCPD patrol officer conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle at East 67th Place and Tichy Boulevard. During the stop, the officer noticed drug paraphernalia in plain view, which gave him probable cause to search the vehicle and the driver. He found several dozen fentanyl pills, as well as a revolver on the driver's person. The driver is now facing possession of a controlled substance charges and special offender charges for having the firearm while also having the illegal narcotics. On Saturday, officers were sent to the 7100 block of Poplar for a disturbance with weapons. They learned a man and woman had gotten into a fight when the man took the woman's car keys and then slashed her tires with a knife. When her ex-husband arrived on scene to pick up their children, the suspect slashed his tires with the knife as well. The suspect was arrested for domestic violence, criminal mischief, second-degree criminal tampering, and theft. That same shift of officers was called to do a check well-being on a man in the 5600 block of Olive Street. They learned he was wanted for multiple felonies, including domestic violence, felony menacing, third-degree assault, and impersonating an officer. The suspect refused to exit the residence initially, but a persistent CCPD officer was able to talk him out of committing suicide and instead surrendering peacefully. He was arrested on his warrants. Excellent work by our patrol officer. Overnight Saturday, officers responded to the 6500 block of East 70th Place for reports that a drunk male had used a gun to break a window of a residence and used bolt cutters to break multiple car windows. The suspect had fled prior to officers' arrival, but we learned he had an extensive criminal history and should not be in possession of a gun. Once he is located, he faces criminal mischief, prohibited use of a weapon while intoxicated, and possession of a weapon by a previous offender charges. Again, overnight Saturday, officers went to the 9300 block of Bahamas Court after someone called 911 to report a suspicious vehicle that was blocking their driveway. Officers put a tire deflation device under the vehicle, and the driver fled upon attempted contact, driving over that device. The vehicle only made it a short distance before it became inoperable, and both the driver and passenger were taken into custody. The passenger for 2 felony warrants for motor vehicle theft and dangerous drugs, and the driver for having drug paraphernalia in his possession and driving while under the influence of narcotics. On Sunday, officers were sent to the 14,900 block of East 103rd Place for a man passed out in the passenger seat of a vehicle with a meth pipe next to him. When questioned, he claimed he was borrowing the vehicle from a friend, but the registered owner's name did not match the friend's name, and the vehicle was reported stolen out of Centennial. The suspect has a history of motor vehicle theft and is a suspect in another case from the week before in which officers contacted him in the same area, passed out behind the wheel of another stolen vehicle. He was arrested on suspicion of second-degree motor vehicle theft. Overnight last night, officers responded to the 3900 block of I-270 for a motorcycle with a punched ignition that was left there with the headlights on and no rider. It was found to be an unreported steal out of Denver. The bike was impounded and will be reunited with its rightful owner. And finally, also overnight, officers were called to a road rage incident between a bicyclist and a driver that turned into a felony menacing. The cyclist said he was riding his bike to the 4800 block of East 62nd Avenue when the occupant of a vehicle tossed something at him, hitting him in the back. He said the vehicle then began bumping his bike tire. The victim got off the bike and a passenger in the vehicle got out and unholstered a gun. The victim said he started to record the incident with his phone, and the passenger got back in the vehicle, which then pulled up next to him, ran over his bike tires, and someone slapped the phone out of the victim's hand before the vehicle fled. This case is under investigation. That's all for now. We'll see you next time. Have a safer week, Commerce City. And remember, if you need us, we are always just minutes away.